Hey guys, my name is Kevin Lynch and I am part of our Parkview Groups team. And we're gonna take some time today to talk about guiding conversations. And as a small group leader, it probably doesn't shock you that guiding a conversation is part of the job description. But let's be honest for a second. Simply having or even initiating a conversation with someone, whether it's at your job or on social media or just in your neighborhood, can be challenging enough already. Not even to mention talking with a group of people. And when you multiply and add the number of people to a conversation into a group, it creates more opportunities for things to go off the rails. Whether it's a bad first date, that coworker who sits way too close to you in the office, or that neighbor who makes you look out the window before you leave, we can easily get sucked into conversations where we don't feel in control. Now, I'm not saying that something insane is gonna happen during your small group prayer time. Like someone's gonna blurt out that they need to overcome their obsession with collecting used baby diapers. Okay, so don't freak out, all right? Don't panic. There's some very simple and easy things to do to be the guide of the conversation. And it's all about leaning into the conversation, building relationships, and just asking questions. The most important step in even having a conversation is starting the conversation. And here's a few simple ways to get that conversation ball rolling. The first, just take some time to get to know each other. Don't worry about getting into all those planned discussion questions right away. It's not about getting through all those questions. Ease the tension by asking icebreaker questions or by playing games. Questions like who was your childhood celebrity crush or what's your worst haircut story can go a long way in creating connection, laughter, and breaking the ice. Next, ask open-ended questions. Now this is a pretty straightforward one. Yes or no questions won't do a lot to actually create good conversation. Ask questions that lead to thoughtful answers. Instead of a question like, do you like Jesus? A better question might be, what do you like about Jesus? And lastly, set the tone. It doesn't hurt to lay out helpful ground rules up front. As a group, it's good to set expectations for what's gonna happen and to lay out what's healthy for the group as a whole going into the conversation. Stuff like, we respect each other in this group, or what's said in this group stays in the group, or we don't judge or fight anyone on their thought or opinion. Those things are great ways to get a conversation going and creating the right environment. So how do we guide the conversation from there? As discussion questions get asked, there's no way to predict what responses you're gonna get, as each person in the group is different. There might be someone in your group who requires that extra nudge to jump in, but you also might encounter people who need more guidance than others. Those are the people in your group who might take things off track. And when that happens, that's what we call a rabbit trail. Rabbit trails happen when someone from your group takes things off course or far in a certain direction. Now, rabbit trails don't always have to be stopped immediately, but it's important to be mindful when you notice one happening and when it might be time to, as we say, trap the rabbit. Here's a few ways you might notice a rabbit trail start to form. The first one we call the trail of self. People need connection, and sometimes that sharing can end up monopolizing the conversation. And during this trail, you might start to catch the person say stuff in your group like my job, or my family, my health, my problems a lot. And it begins to affect the entire group's ability to connect. Those are the trails of self. The second one are the trail wanderers. With loneliness being a major issue in our world, people don't just need to process, but we don't always know how to process. And when a trail wanderer responds to a question, they oftentimes just start talking, which again, isn't always a bad thing. But you'll see this start to go off track and notice it happen when people in your group respond with something like, sorry, what was the question again? And the last trail is the trail of opinions. Now, if you're on social media, you know these people exist, and they exist in small group too. These are the people who have strong opinions, oftentimes caused by strong hurt. And these rabbit trails need to be trapped the fastest. At the end of the day, we all have opinions, but in a group setting, voicing them can be dangerous or divisive if we're not careful. You might experience someone who says things like, listen, the Bible is crystal clear about fill in the blank with this big theological issue. Or anyone who voted for this person or this party is what's wrong with our world. The most important thing to do in these moments and during the conversation as a whole is to pay attention to the dynamic of the group. During a rabbit trail moment, if there's engagement and interest from the group as a whole, it's safe to let things be for a little bit. But you'll notice it's time to step in when you see people start to disconnect or disengage, or begin side conversations, or start to respond with some negative body language. And when that happens, all you have to do is take a chance to open things up to the other members of your group. Shift the attention and the dynamic. The best thing to do is to either say that topic or that rabbit trail might be worth talking about one-on-one after the group. Or a more subtle approach is simply stepping in and asking a new question as you look towards the other members of your group. And that can be the easiest way to trap the rabbit. So, being intentional, emphasizing connection, and being aware of the group dynamic as a whole is the best way to start and to guide a healthy conversation. And remember that everyone in the group just needs to be listened to, and to be calm when the conversation happens. And if you do that, you'll be the best conversation guide that you can be.